I'm Phil Cramer. I'm the VFX supervisor from Digital Domain on Fantastic Four First Steps.
I am Alison Luong. I'm the digital producer at Digital Domain on Fantastic Four First Steps.
We also had fun with some of the other Fantastic Four members. With Johnny early on, again, there was just when the planning stages of the movie, we were tasked with helping figuring out like how does this flame feel different to previous movies, or do we want it different? Is the head free? Is it covered? There were all sorts of different questions. And so again, with the stunt team, they did a bunch of wire work and tried different shots with him landing, taking off, being in the lab and whatnot. And we put that on fire, and that helped a little bit, like zone in on a look. Like they initially thought, like, okay, is it just a red flame or does it have blue accents in there? And there was this whole idea of like that his skin would emit oxygen at a very light level, and so that is what ignites into the fire. And if you really pay attention, you will see these accents, especially when he's in the lab talking with Mr. Fantastic. Like we try to always like there's a bit of a feeling of these licking flames that just start a hint of blue. Anyway, it was a lot of fun to help design that and come up with these ideas. But this dev phase is always is crazy. I mean, because it's early on and we're still learning stuff, and you have limited resources, and so you try to get as much out of that as possible. This is when Alison just joined the show, I think, just when we were in the middle of that, right?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting the plates they supplied for us to do that dev phase. They had shot a stunt actor getting lifted, landing, and kind of like in motion so that we could work on the look of the fire when Johnny's doing those things, like taking off, landing, and just general ambient standing around while on fire. Around that time, Deadpool versus Wolverine had just come out, which features, spoiler alert, a cameo from a previous Johnny Storm. One of our goals was to update the look of the fire from that movie because, as Phil said, this is its own universe, its own Earth, and it's a retro future look at the Fantastic Four team, not necessarily modern day.
The same thing with Sue. We were very early on tasked to help figure out how does her force field look like, how does she go invisible, and then the baby X-ray scene, how to deal with that, and all this was filmed with a stunt lady, and then we just chipped away at it and tried to present different looks and feels. And it was very interesting because in the end there, everything got very, very much traditional looking or very graphic looking. And I think this was like with inspiration of the original comic books. So some of the techniques that we used, they were made to look simpler, more graphic, more retro in nature. So for instance, when she goes invisible, she pretty much goes invisible with slight distortion on the inside, and we always added this RGB feel to her edges where we break out like a refraction, the different colors, and it made it look very simplistic and nice, and this retro future look.
Yeah, we really leaned into what it would actually look like for these elements to appear on a physical camera at the time.
We made experiments for Mr. Fantastic. Got to play a little bit with his stretching. Even though we didn't do so much, we had this really big science experiment where he's trying to move an egg across the room.
In the movie, there's a plot attached to push Galactus into a different corner of the universe by creating a portal. That work was done by ILM, but we did the precursor scene for that, which involved transporting an egg across the room, making a miniature version of that portal.
Eddie Smith and our FX team, they did an awesome job with this to really showcase like like make it look real, basically, that you can teleport an egg. And it had so many different layers and electricity going into it. It was really fun, I think, to come up with that. And as Alison was saying, like later on, we ended up like different companies made it in big the same tiny effect to showcase how the Galactus gets teleported away. And so it was important that while we were designing this little thing, that it would constantly connect into this end beat of the film.